Okay. Okay, good afternoon class. Okay, so for today we'll continue with the second lecture, right? The sampling, data collection and sampling. Okay. All right. So second lecture will be data collection and sampling technique. Okay, so we'll emphasize and highlight on how we take the sampling, or we take the sample from the population. Okay, so by end of this topic, students should be able to identify various type of sampling, okay, and then to apply the sampling technique in solving problem. Okay, so for this data collection, all right, so we know that there are two types of sources of the data. Okay, the first one is we call it as a primary data, okay, and then the second one is we call it as a secondary data. So how are you going to get the first data? For the primary data, where is the sources for the primary data? It is from the survey, okay, the first one before everyone use the data, and then we have the secondary data. So for the sources of the secondary data, we get from the what? From the Bank Negara department, okay, the data that has been used before. Okay, this is what we call as a secondary data. Alright, so we have also the questionnaire. Alright, so what is questionnaire? The one that you give through the Google form, or previously we have the face-to-face questionnaire, right? You go and distribute the questionnaire to the respondent, right? This one is, we call it as a questionnaire. Alright, so what is the definition? Okay, how you understand what is a questionnaire? Alright, questionnaire is a written instrument that contains a series of questions or items that attempt to collect information on a particular subject. When you do some research, okay, so you tend to distribute the questionnaire to get all the information about your research. Okay, so this one is like you have a strongly agree, okay, agree, disagree, okay, strongly disagree, and so on, right? Okay, so there are steps and a few procedures when you construct a questionnaire. Okay, all right, the questionnaire cannot be distribute something without you have a proper things here. All right, so for this one, okay, when you design your questionnaire, when you design the question, okay, the first one is you need to specify, okay, the information. Okay, all right, the first thing that you need to specify, state clearly what is the information that are needed from the target respondent, right? Okay, all right, the second one is avoid sensitive question. Okay, for example, what is the sensitive? Huh? Salary. Okay, the income, right? All right, and then what else? Age, sometimes can be sensitive to some respondent, right? Okay, age, okay, body weight, and so on. Right, this one is a example for the sensitive question. All right, so avoid too many calculation. Don't ask the formula in your questionnaire. Okay, when you do the questionnaire, please don't ask them to write the formula. Okay, to solve the issue or to solve some problem related to the formulation and so on. Okay, all right, you must ask something related with the simple and basic thing about the respondent. Okay, otherwise they won't give you the information, or otherwise they will give you inaccurate result or answer. Okay, all right, question ordering is important. Okay, first of all you ask about the demographic details and so on. Okay, and then come to your topic of interest and research, and further with the something very, very important and the main one. Okay, all right, avoid leading question, and then use the simple languages. Okay, keep the length of the questionnaire short, and then make sure everything is easy. Make sure everything is easy for you, because one, you want to get the information as much as possible. If they didn't understand your language, how they can provide the information that are needed. Okay, right. Okay, so this is a basic thing about the questionnaire. Please do it as simple as possible. Okay, Alright, so another method for collecting data. You may get the information and data through direct interview. Okay, so you do the direct interview or personal interview, face-to-face interview. Alright, so you train an interviewer with, the trained interviewer will get the information from the respondent depending on the objective of the survey based on the questionnaire. Okay, you have a questionnaire, but then you go and then ask the respondent face-to-face. This one we call it as a personal or direct interview. Right? Okay, but what is advantage? Every of the method, okay, for you to collect the data, they have their own advantage, and then they also have disadvantage. Okay, for example, advantage is high response rate, which means that you will get as much as possible. You will get the maximum information from the respondent because you are doing the face-to-face interview. Okay, they will answer all the questions efficiently. Okay, all right. If they don't understand your question or your questionnaire, then you can explain to them. Okay, by doing so, then you will get a lot of information from that respondent. Okay, all right. Can clarify any term that are not understood. Okay, all right. Disadvantage. Why? Why we call it personal interview or direct interview has a time constraint? Because you need to travel. Okay, let's say you want to interview your friend. Okay, is it possible your friend come to your place? No, you need to go at your friend place, right? So that is why we call it as a time constraint. You need to travel, costing, and so on. Okay, high cost. Some of the interviewers, okay, you need to pay for the respondent because some of the respondent maybe they have what we call profile and high profile background. Okay, maybe they are expertise in some of the matters, so you need to pay them. Okay, traveling, costing for you, the place, and so on. Okay, this one there's advantage and also disadvantage. Okay, all right. So telephone interview. The second method for data collection is by doing the telephone interview. Okay, it is conducted by a telephone service line and respondents are asked to respond the questionnaire. Okay, you just call and then get all the information. All right, but then this one is advantage is a less time. Okay, you don't need to travel, less expensive. Okay, work from home. Okay, this one is work from home basis. Okay, no extra cost needed for this kind of method. All right, but only short question can be asked. Okay, don't ask a long question. Otherwise, okay, otherwise, are you scammer? Say like that. Okay, so this one you need to ask short question and then need to find the correct time. Okay, don't call them after the office hour, which is they will not be giving you a correct and accurate information. Okay, all right. So mail questionnaire. Okay, mail questionnaire is questionnaire are mailed to the respondent included from the sample. Okay, but then it does not require interviewer. You just email. Okay, what is advantage? It's a lowest cost. Okay, lower cost and convenience since wider region can be covered. You can email to anyone. Okay, but then disadvantage is very low response rate. Okay, some of people very ignore to the email. They didn't read the email. Okay, all right. And then no one can assist the respondent in answering the question. Okay, sometimes your question is too lengthy or the question is complicated involving the formula and so on. Okay, so no one could assist the respondent to give and provide an accurate answer. Okay, right. So direct observation. Okay, method for collecting data is a direct observation. Okay, used by the social scientists in learning the habit and custom the community. For example, data are collected by taking part from the production line and observing the number of hours they last. Okay. Okay, for this one, advantage is it record what actually happened. Okay, rather than people say would happen. Alright, but then for disadvantage is observer will not get an accurate one if the respondent know if they are being recorded. or observe. Okay, sampling. We go to another one is a sampling. All right. So what is the definition of sampling? Sampling is, we call it as a process. Okay, process of selecting a sample from a population. Okay, why we don't involve our study? Why we don't involve all population in our study? Time constraint, cost. Okay, so we just we just select a few, or we just select a part of population, not all population. All right. So the sampling is, we call it as a process of you selecting the sample from a population. Okay, but population is not limit to individual, not limit to us, but then maybe the household, maybe the institution, or any others. Okay, not limit to the people only. All right, so advantage is you might reduce the cost. Okay, because you only select a part of from the population, reduce the cost, produce educate info for a shorter period. Okay, for example, if you take all population, you might take a longer time to finish in completing all. Okay, all right. The rest is to provide almost accurate info. Okay, as resulting from the census. Basically, in social science, okay, so they can refer to this table named Cauchy and Morgan. Okay, you know what is the population, and then you know what is the sample that they need. Okay, it is generated by table. You can refer to the Cauchy and Morgan table for the social science. Okay, so you know that this one, okay, this is an enough sample for you to refer to. Okay, all right, class. Alright, so when we do the sampling, okay, so there are two errors derived from the sampling. Okay, the first one is a sampling error. The second one is the non-sampling error. Okay, so how is the sampling error derived from this one? Okay, when you choose the sample are not from the population. Okay, when you choose the population. Okay, when you choose the population are not from the sample. For example, what? For example, when you do people who are living in the Klang Valley, but you take the sample from Ipoh people, cannot. Okay, that's why we call it as a sampling error. Okay, the sample are not from that population, are not belong to that population. All right, for the non-sampling error, it is based on because of the non-response from the respondent, just like technical issue. Okay, for example, faulty measuring device. Okay, for example, you want to check for the body temperature, right, among the Klang Valley people, but you didn't bring the scan, right, like that. Okay, the temperature and so on, thermometer. All right, so respondent give you the false information. They are not willing the accurate one. Okay, this can be cause non-sampling error. Okay, and the error in writing and analyzing the data. For example, you get the data, but then you are record the information given. Okay, this one we call it and fall under the non-sampling error. Okay, anything which is not related with the population, okay, we call it as a sampling error, but then non-sampling error is more like the action from the operator. Okay, which is incorrectly record the information. Okay. Alright, so we need to go fast because we have few methods related with the sampling. Okay, under sampling we have probability sampling and then non-probability sampling. Okay, so what is probability sampling? Class, what is probability sampling? They mentioned that it's a random selection. What is the definition of random selection? Random selection means that every of the element or every of the sample have a equal probability of being selected. Okay, every subject, okay, has an equal probability of being selected, which is this one we call it as a random selection. However, for the non-probability sampling, it is not involving the random selection. Okay. All right. So, all right. So non-probability sampling is used when the sampling frame are difficult to used when the sampling frame are difficult to obtain. What is a sampling frame? What is the sampling frame, class? Sampling frame. What is a sampling frame? Any answer? The sampling frame is the list of all population that can be sampled. List of all elements in the population that can be sampled. Okay? So we will use this one where the sampling frame are too difficult to obtain. Alright? Okay, so most of the method is good when we involve with the random selection. Why? There is no selection bias. Why there is no selection bias? Because everyone has a equal chance of being selected, okay, as a sample. Okay? Alright, so under the sampling, under the probability sampling, there will be a few methods or few techniques for the probability sampling. The first one, we have the simple random sampling. Okay. Second one is a systematic sampling. The third one is a stratified random sampling. We have cluster sampling. And then the last one, we have a multi-stage sampling. But the basic one is a simple random sampling. Okay. Alright, we will cover for this probability sampling first today. And then tomorrow we continue with the non-probability sampling. Alright, so for the non-probability sampling, we have quota sampling, judgmental sampling, okay, and then we have a convenient sampling. 3 methods for the non-probability sampling, but more focus on the probability sampling. These 5 methods, okay, and the basic of the sampling is a simple random sampling. Okay. Alright, so how you identify that one is a simple random sampling? Okay. Alright, so the simple random sampling assure every element in the population has an equal chance, okay, of being included as a sample. Every element in the population has an equal chance of being selected as a sample. Okay, this one is a basic because the simple random sampling are from the probability sampling. So you must remember that this one, selection, random selection. Equal probability of being selected as a sample. Alright, this one is the definition of random selection under the probability sampling. Alright, okay, so used when the items are from the group of the same characteristic. What is the definition of same characteristic? Used when the items are from a group of the same characteristic. Maybe all are students, all the population are students. So means that they are all same or similar characteristic. Okay? Right. What else? In the same characteristic, maybe the age. Let's assume that the age are same, right? In the same range of age. Alright? So that is why we call it as a use when the use the item from a group of the same characteristic. Okay, how to select the sample? How are we going to select the sample? Okay, For small population is n is below than 300. Okay, in this case, they mentioned that the small population is n is less than 30. So we use that lottery method where each item will be given a number on a piece of paper, okay, and a place in a box, okay. So number will be selected at one time. So same like I'm doing the simple random sampling by you choosing your name in the attendee list. Okay, during the tutorial class. That way you can figure it out as a simple random sampling. Okay, alright, okay. For the large population, n is greater or equal than 300, so we will use the random number. Okay, random number generator. Okay, you can use this one. Later in the tutorial class, I will show you the random number. Okay, so random number table, you don't need to generate, okay, because this one is already generated. Okay, so you just put the number, same like the small population, and then one of the interviewer will select this number without they know who will be taking that number. Okay, because everyone has a equal chance. Okay, advantage. Okay, advantage is all element has a equal chance of being selected. Okay, for this one, the advantage is everyone got the same probability of being selected, and for this advantage, okay, that one will be tiring for the large population, right? It's very tiring, okay, take a long time to finish for a large population, and the respondent may be widely scattered, hence it will produce higher costs. Okay, sometimes the element or the population or the respondent will be scattered around, okay, so it will produce a lot of costs there. Okay, all right, so this one is for the probability sampling, simple random sampling. Okay, all right, so we look at the figure, this one, okay, for the simple random sampling. Okay, let's say the first student, okay, you will be the first student, number 1, you will be the second, and then you will be the third, fourth, number 5, 6, and so on. Okay, and then you will take one number there randomly. So let's say you take 5. So 5 you will be the sample. Okay, same like as the figure here. Okay, for here, how many population here, class? How many number of population here? 12, right? So how you write this one? What is the sample needed? 4, right? Okay, so we know that this one is total number of population. The small n we know as a sample after you select from a population. Okay, how many? 4, right? And 4, this one, okay? This is for the simple random sampling. But what you assume from all this population, starting from 1 until 12, they have an equal characteristic. For example, your population is all students. Okay? Equal characteristic. Okay. All right, so I will first go with the stratified sampling. Okay, stratified sampling. Okay, for the stratified sampling, used when the population is divided into subpopulation. Okay, we divided into the subpopulation. All right, where between the group are heterogeneous and within the group are homogeneous. Okay, homogeneous means that they have a similar characteristic. Okay, for example, okay, let's say this one is a population, all students. Okay, so we stratified them into subpopulation. The first population may be CGPA is 3.5 above. Let's say above, right? This is the first subpopulation. This is the second subpopulation, CGPA 3. All sensitive this one? Sensitive or not? Okay, can proceed. All right. So 3 until 3.5. This is the second subpopulation. All right, the third one is the 3.0 below. This is the first subpopulation. This is the second subpopulation. This is the third subpopulation. Alright? Okay? Between them is a same, similar in terms of student, right? But then we already stratified them. Okay? Alright? In this all here, the subpopulation here, they have all 3.5 above. The second one, all 3 until 3.5. The third one is all 3.0. So, between this one, heterogeneous, within this one is we call it as a homogeneous. The same CGPA. Okay, the same pointer. Alright, okay. So all the group will be selected and the item from each group will be selected randomly using the simple random sampling or systematic sampling. Alright, okay. So for example, a lecturer is interested to conduct a research on reading habit among the semester 2 students at Cerdas College. Okay. Alright, for example, okay, this one is a sample or not? Sample or not? No. This one is still population. Okay. And then how to select the sample here? You can use the simple random sampling to select the sample. Simple random sampling. Simple random sampling. SARS. Okay. Alright, so this one advantage, the sample will be more representative of the population. What do you mean by representative of the population? The first population, we come for the student with the high performance, okay, or excellent performance, alright. So maybe the second population is for the moderate performance. The third subpopulation is for the lower performance student, okay. So that is mean by the more representative of the population rather than we combine all together. So this one is the calculation. Okay, we are slowly involved with the calculation. Okay, starting from this chapter, we have slowly involved with the calculation. Alright, so using the proportional stratified sampling, okay, Ni is equal to the Ni, this one is what? What is Ni? The first subpopulation, the total subpopulation for the first, okay, divided by the total number of the population, okay, and then multiply by n, the number of sample. Okay, let's say from here, this will be n. This will be n I equal to 1. This will be n I equal to 2. This will be n I equal to 3. All together, okay, this one n I equal to 1. This one n I equal to 2. This one n I equal to 3. Depending on how many subpopulation you have. Okay? Depending on how many subpopulation you have divided by n, overall by all sample. Okay. Okay, so you look at this one. Alright. So they give you, okay, so they give you the Ni. Alright. Let's say the total subpopulation for grade A. Okay. The total subpopulation for group A. And I1 is equal to, Ni. What is N, class? First, what is N from this one? What is N? N is equal to 200. 200. And I is equal to A. I is equal to A. What is? Or maybe NA is same. NI is equal to A or NA directly. Same. What is the value there? 20. Okay? And then what is a NI or NA is equal to NA divided by N multiplied by N all. Okay. So what is N here? The small n here? The small n is equal to 60. Okay? 60. Alright? So you have NA is equal to, sorry, N. NA is equal to NA divided by N multiplied by N equal to 20 divided by 200 multiplied by 60. Okay, so what will be the first row there? 60. 6 only. Okay, the first row will be 6. The second one? Here will be 6. 6 here. Here. Second one. What will be the second one? Huh? 18? 18. This one? 24. Okay, this one? 12. Okay? So, 6, 18, 24, 12. Is it you get 60? If not get 60, it means that your calculation is wrong. Correct, huh? Okay. All get the same answer? 6, 18, 24, 12. Okay? Make sure you get 60. Everything must be tally at the end of the row of the calculation and table. Okay? Okay, this one also the same calculation. Okay? So you understand this calculation table, so everything will be okay. Alright? Okay? So for this one, we proceed with the systematic sampling, the third technique. Okay? The first one is a simple random sampling. The second one is stratified. Okay, so you must remember when you need an explanation on the stratified, we should have the subpopulation. And each of the subpopulation is heterogeneous characteristic between, but within the same subpopulation, they has a homogeneous characteristic of a population. Okay? Alright, so we move to the systematic sampling. Okay, systematic sampling is a random sampling, okay, in which the items are selected from the population at a uniform interval. Okay, at a uniform interval of a listed order. The first thing is uniform interval at a listed order. Okay, so how to select the sample? Okay, so the first is to determine the size of population, of course, and then determine the required sample size. Okay, this one you can refer to the table and then you need to calculate, alright? So determine the K interval when K is the ratio between the size of population and the size of the sample. Okay, a random number of between 1 to K will be selected random and so on. Alright, okay, so we see the figure here. Alright, so for the systematic The keyword is a uniform interval. Alright, so you have a population from population 1 until 12. Alright, so you only select the sample at the every third. Okay, for example, you start with the 2. Okay, so the first start is a random. You can start at 1, you can start at 2, you can start at 3. But the second one must be every third. Okay, so you started with 2, and then the second sample will be 5, the third sample will be 8, the fourth sample will be 11. This one we call it as a uniform interval. Does it differ with the simple random sampling? Same or different? Different, right? Because the simple random sampling, okay, possibly population 1, population 2, population 3, and population 4 will be selected as a sample. But for this one, you need to have a uniform interval. Okay, why we start at 2? It is random. Okay, it's up to your researcher to start which of the population as the first sample. But after that, you must have a constant and then uniform interval of selecting the sample. Okay, all right. For this sample, maybe they use every third. This one is for the small population, right? So how when it is involved the larger population? That is why you need to understand this one. Determine the interval k when k is the ratio between the size of population and the sample size, whereby the k is equal to the population divided by the number of sample. Okay, so after this, when you understand on the notation and so on, you don't need to write number population. You just put the big N there. Okay, and then you don't need to write the total sample. You just read the small n there. So we understand. You can write like this. Okay, we understand already. Oh, you are referring to the population, and then you are referring to the sample. Okay. Alright, this one is for the stratified. Okay, same. And this one is a cluster. Okay, cluster sampling, right? So for the cluster sampling is a probability sampling also. Alright, so use if the population is divided into subpopulation where between group are homogeneous and within the group are heterogeneous. This one is a different between the stratified. Why? Because this one is a between group are homogeneous. Between homogeneous but within are heterogeneous, are not similar in terms of characteristic. Okay, the group will be selected at random, of course. All items in each group will be chosen. Okay, you choose the group only, and then you will take all the group there. And then each of the group has a different characteristic. Okay, all right, reduce time, cost, workforce, and then since only few cluster form are selected as a sample. All right, okay. Disadvantage is difficult to compute and interpret the result. Why? Because they provide you with the different characteristic of the population. Okay, so might has a different in terms of their result and interpretation. Okay, all right. So this one is a figure about the cluster sampling. Okay, you have all this one. Population group, the schools in Nigeria. All right, so they randomly choose the group from the population. Random. Okay, between group what? Between group homogeneous or heterogeneous? Between group are homogeneous, but within are heterogeneous. You just select one group and then this one will be sample. You select another group, then one will be the sample. This one is for the cluster sampling. Okay, all right. Cluster, right? Okay, the last one, we have the multi-stage. Okay, before I proceed with the non-probability during the tutorial. All right, so multi-stage is used to cut down the survey area and reduce the survey cost from every large population. Okay, example, we need to get random sample of 2,000 residents from the Malaysia population. Okay, so how we do? Since we have 14 states, okay, we go to the district and then we go to the village. Okay, so this one we can reduce the time, we can reduce the cost, and then we can reduce the It's more economical, all right? And then, all right, but this one not assurance on the representation of very large population. Okay, so this one for the sampling technique, all right, it is depending, okay, it is depending on the behavior, and then it is depending on the characteristic of the population. Then you identify what is the population that will be involved in your study, so it will be easily for you to implement which one is the most convenient sampling technique for you to use. Okay, because you see from there, all right, there is a advantage and as well as a disadvantage for each of the technique. Okay, all right, so we cannot say that, okay, the simple random sampling can be used for all the type population, cannot. Okay, all right, you need to identify which one is a work, what we call maximum, can work excellently with your study and research. Okay, all right, so I think that's all for today. Tomorrow we will continue with this one, and then we will continue with the, what we call, continue with the EDA. All right, there will be involved the graph and some of the calculation there during the tutorial class. So this week, no tutorial, okay, because tutorial 1 we cannot we cannot continue the tutorial 1 on my times because we didn't cover in the lecture. So during the tutorial, I will continue a bit on the lecture materials, okay. But practical, we follow the as planned lah, okay. All right. So that's all class for today. You can take your attendance and you may leave. All right.